Hello, welcome. So, how are you all? Hello. So, week one, or session one, I should say, of 5. We're exploring self-compassion today. Now, welcome. Good to see you all started going with a little bit of the chat in the chat box, which is awesome. But yeah, importantly, can everyone hear me okay? If you could just give us a like or something like that. Apologies if the internet goes a little down. I don't know why, just occasionally it drops every now and again. Hello, Nick, Carrie, Lindsay, Agnes, Sarah, Linda, hello and welcome. And thank you. So, as I said, I don't know why. Occasionally the internet seems to drop every now and again. The picture just sort of stands still for a few moments and g'day. Awesome. Hello, and welcome, and thank you. So excited. Thank you. All right. So I guess, as I was saying, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. Today's focus is all going to be around self-compassion. Now, obviously, I hope you have got the workbook. I've got some of your messages back about that you have got it and it's okay and it's accessible. But importantly today, the way it's going to be set out, we're going to be doing a little bit of discussion. I guess when I say discussion, it'll be me doing a lot of the talking and you doing a lot of the listening. The sessions will hopefully go for about an hour, something like that. Now, my timekeeping isn't so good. So if you have to go, you can leave at any point whenever you'd like, or stay all the way to the end would be amazing. We're going to be doing at least 2 sort of formal practices that you've probably seen in your workbooks of things that we're going to be exploring for the next 5 days, 21 days of compassion together. Now, we'll say the people that get the most out of this course, they get involved. I've done a trial run. The feedback from it has been incredible. And I've told the people that gained the most from it were those that really engaged, brought it to life every day. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this sort of idea of bringing this thing to life. Now, there is a chat thing over here. I'm not going to be able to access it all the time, but if any questions come up, when I take a pause, I'll come back over and you just ask if there's anything that comes up. I try to de-jargon it, I guess, because I failed at English at school. My English has not been the greatest. So I don't use too many big words or anything like that. But if there's anything that comes up and you want to ask some questions about it, please ask and I'll do my best to answer it. A lot of the questions and answer I will hold all the way to the end, just so we can get through most of it. But throughout it, I'll be asking it, do you understand what I mean? Or is there any questions that have come up around some of the points that we're going to? Because self-compassion is a massive area. There's 8-week courses on self-compassion, and we're trying to do this in 5 days. Now, to give you an understanding of how the workbooks are going to be working, now, I hope you maybe have them with you. If you don't, it's okay. It's not the worst thing that's going to happen, but we are going to be completing a little bit of the workbook today as we go along. But there's basically three main areas within the workbook. So you've probably seen our sort of 3 values of Awareful is collaboration, compassion, and wisdom. And in particular within this 21 days, the collaboration, because we have to recognize that we aren't alone on this ship. That we're going to have to collaborate, even if it's just with ourselves. Obviously, compassion, or maybe we could consider it as our mindfulness, which is our reminder to practice, at least for the next 5 days. So our opportunity to begin to see things as our path, and ultimately wisdom. So there's no point just sitting on the cushion and practicing self-compassion if you're not going to bring it to life. There's no point being compassionate here and being an asshole the rest of your day, because whatever you're doing, it's not working. So these 21 days is going to be about being a little honest with ourselves. Now, there's guided practices, which I'd love you to do every day. I don't have any expectations of you. If you do nothing except for just come and sit with us, the 5 live sessions, well, that's going to be awesome. But like I said, there's a 2-minute practice this week and a 13-minute practice. So doing that as often as you'd like, there's no harm that's going to be caused by these things. Now, I guess if there was any sort of expectations from me, if there was the slightest bit of expectation, I suppose the things I would say is to have no expectations. Don't expect to, in 21 days, have completely transformed your life. It may happen, which what we'll find, certainly with those that have been practicing mindfulness all the time, there is this real idea of this law of attraction and law of least effort, that both sort of begin to work hand in hand, where we begin to, when we stop talking to ourselves negatively, we stop having all these expectations of ourselves, we stop carrying around that weight of burden, that often sometimes life just begins to get a little simpler. And it's the same with this, so come, enjoy, relax, hopefully get some small benefit out of what we're going to be doing today. I'm so stoked to be doing this, and so wonderful to have so many of you on. I know it's 9 o'clock over in Jersey, and mostly, especially after a solid Friday night. So it's incredible to have so many of you on already. I'm very grateful. And to everyone in Australia as well, it's 6 o'clock on a Saturday night here, and it's usually barbecue/beer time. So although it's a little cold out there, in all honesty. So the other, I guess, the things that I would say the best thing to bring to this practice, bring to the 21 days of compassion, is this idea, as I said, no expectations. So we're not putting any expectations on ourselves. We're leaving all of the stuff at the door, all the practice that we may have done, all the thoughts that we've had, all this sort of stuff, and just leaving it there. And we're here now, and we're here to enjoy everything that we're going to be doing together on this little 21-day journey. But also there's this idea of having a bit of an open mind, and this is where it takes courage. The courage is this idea of being able to begin to sort of, okay, I'm going to give this a shot, not just sort of, the mind loves to tell us no, and that won't work, and that won't work, and let's not do it like that, but just giving it a go, this idea of the open-minded approach. And the other is open heart, so obviously we're practicing compassion. And so one of the best thing that we have and could possibly have this open heart, and we're starting obviously turning this open heart towards ourselves. Now, don't forget, over the next 21 days and beyond, I'm here to help you throughout with any questions. And as I said, the sessions are going to be about an hour. Anyone that's been on my courses before, I'm not the greatest at timekeeping, so I will do my best. It could be before, it could be after. Ultimately, I just hope you have a wonderful time. Like I said, I'm just stoked to have you on. Wonderful that you could be involved, and I hope this compassion begins to spread as quickly as the virus does. Now, if you don't have your workbook right now, what I would say, just jump off and grab it, because I've got a little bit of housekeeping, I guess, to go as well, and then come back. But for everyone else that's still here, as I was saying, the 21 days, 5 live sessions, because there were so many of you that booked on, it was incredible. I thought, nah, I'm going to do all of these live. Each one we're going to be exploring a different area of the practice of compassion. So when we practice metta, it starts off with ourselves, and it goes on and on and on and on. And we're going to be exploring all the 5 different areas. And I'm not going to give it all away. You probably had a look at the workbook anyway. And we live in a world that doesn't really give us the foundations of compassion, or at least not yet. Compassion is seen more of a fluffy term than that people confuse more with sympathy sometimes, but obviously, hopefully not used that are here. But compassion, in particular self-compassion, it takes courage. Now, they call it the path of the spiritual warrior for a reason, because when we begin to turn inwards, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's a lot easier to distract ourselves, especially when we live in a society that doesn't really give us the right tools for compassion to flourish. So self-compassion it's not easy. It goes against every fiber in our body a lot of the time. It doesn't feel normal being kind to ourselves. That's why we sort of buy ourselves gifts, because that's sort of like the easy option. It's hard turning inwards and asking questions of ourselves like, how do I heal? And what do I need to do to change? How can I nourish myself a little bit more? It takes courage, real courage. But the science supporting this practice is overwhelming, and it's just gaining more momentum. For me in particular, I felt like I was always in a fight with my emotions, always just wanting them to stop, but never knowing how. What I began to realize through this incredible practice, self-compassion, is that fighting against myself is never going to be a winning battle. There's no winner in that battle. There's always a loser. That loser, unfortunately, was me. And that when emotions arise, we look to blame rather than nurture. Now, compassion is the radicalism of our time, and we need an evolution of the heart. These two quotes from the wonderful Dalai Lama that bring about a hope that together as one human community, that peace and compassion can become our reality. So with that, what I want to do, we're just going to take a pause. And within this pause, it's about this idea of just being with what is here with you right now. So just for the next 60 seconds, I'm going to go quiet, and I just want you to feel in and just notice how you are at the moment. What can you feel? How are you feeling about, maybe there's a sense of anxiety or stress or, excitement, maybe confusion, whatever it could be. But for the next 60 seconds, just bringing our attention into our body and just resting there. Okay, so it's these pauses where we're not trying to change anything. That's what they call a self-compassionate pause, where we just take a moment just to breathe and notice how we are. I certainly noticed my heart was racing. I think both excited and nervous. So why practice self-compassion? Well, this practice has far-reaching consequences beyond anything that we could imagine. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the ripple effect and how it works, and why self-compassion is so important and how this ripple effect works. So now I know some of you have heard me talk about the ripple effect previously, so my apologies if I'm just repeating myself to you, although often these things can be wonderful reminders. Now, if you can imagine a beautiful pond, crisp early morning, not a wisp of wind, crystal, mirror-like. And if you picked up a stone and threw the stone into the middle of it, of course, it'll make a big splash, but ultimately these ripples just ripple out. They continue all the way to the shore, to the edge of the pond. Now, the disbursement of energy that the rock has created The rock has created this energy that just disperses all the way through, disturbing often the whole pond, depending on obviously the size of it. In the same way, it is our life. With the perfect, beautiful crystal pond, which is our existence, the life that we have. Now, I know it's not perfect. And I know that in reality, it's probably more like the Pacific Ocean mid-hurricane. But the true reality is not so much the chaos, but the beauty amidst that chaos. And that's what we're finding. That's the gem, the diamond in the coal. Anyway, so the ripple effect and why it's so important to start on you this self-compassion, we'll just begin to look at it from, I guess, what we call an alternative angle. So say right now you're a bit frustrated with life, which, give it 10 years ago, I'm sure my wife used to call me Victor Meldrew. I know I'm for the British out there, I don't believe it. Yeah, the man, that's what she used to call me. Now, if I'm an angry, miserable fella, grumping around everywhere, getting frustrated with everyone, I'm going to be giving everyone that I interact with a 10%, and this is the science, this is the evidence, a 10% better chance of being angry too. And as I go about my day, making other people's lives harder, moaning about everything, this misery becomes as infectious as any virus could. So as I'm miserable, I'm making others miserable, who are making others miserable, and the ripples just continue to go on and on and on and on. So let's use an example, and I love to use the running late as the best example, because we can get incredibly emotional, especially when we're running real late. Maybe if you could picture that just for the moment, you're running late, it's not your fault, something's happened, but there are people waiting for you, important people. And it's important that you get there on time. So, how would you be feeling? Stressed, angry, right? Anxious? Your mind is going bonkers with a billion scenarios, most of which are complete and utter fantasy of what they're going to say to you when you arrive. What are you going to say? It goes on and on, this endless chatter, blah, 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 blah. And as you try and race out the door, you can't find your keys. So you call your partner up fuming, where do you put the keys? They don't know. They've got no idea. They didn't move your keys or touch your keys, but you knew it was there. And your mind is telling you that they've put it somewhere. So you get angry at and sort of trigger them, as we can do so well with the people we love most. And so for the rest of the day, your partner, if they don't do much mindfulness themselves, if they're not very good at self-compassion, they come off the call, they're fuming as well. And maybe there's someone nearby that's done something wrong. This is absolutely perfect timing. It's the perfect storm, but the universe has its ways, right? And they erupt at that person. Now, the anger has traveled. Maybe this person retreats. They feel anxious and sick and go home because they feel shame. And instead of talking it out, they don't want to talk. They say they don't say anything to their kids or their partner. They just feel worried, and their household begins to feel sad. Now, this is an extreme case, but this is the reality. We don't really recognize just how our small lives, our small world can make such a massive impact on our environment. And these ripples can go on and on and on. And this all started with our own inability to manage ourselves compassionately, manage our own emotions. And so we start with ourselves. And being late is such an awesome example. Who out there doesn't like being late, right? True? Nobody enjoys being late because we run late all the time. And this is our opportunity to really bring this practice of compassion to life. And so the ripple effect, it all could have stopped right at the start, not calling up our partner, not screaming at the other slow drivers on the road, not cutting the person off, and just calming down our own fire, breathing, recognizing that we can't change what's happened. This ability can be a wonderful gift to the world in itself. But ultimately, the game is to get so good at self-compassion that everyone begins to benefit. In the same way that 10%, the ripple effect begins to work. When we begin to treat people with kindness, when we help where we can, when we are not judging or criticizing ourselves, making ourselves tired and anxious and down, it's exhausting work beating up ourselves all the time. Hello, Wendy. Hello, Tina. The world, our world, benefits from the beauty that is you. And when we stop and breathe and connect and take some time every day to bring some compassion into our lives, appreciating what we have and who we are, spending time feeling into the love that we have for ourselves and others, working closely with the voice in our head that lies to you all the time. That ripple effect, you wandering around inadvertently, shining the light for others, what a gift to society you would be. So, this is why this practice is so important, why the Dalai Lama says we need an evolution of the heart, because it is this evolution that can create ripples in places that we could never imagine. That even the smallest of things, the smallest of changes can impact so many people's lives. And it all starts with how we think about ourselves and how we treat ourselves. This matters. It matters how we talk to ourselves, how we think about ourselves. Now, we've all been born into a society where we strive to be the best in other people's eyes. That when we made it, when other people's perceptions mean more to us, or I guess what I'm trying to say is that we've been born into a world where other people's perceptions mean more to us than our own. That how they think about me means more than how I actually think about me. So this week is all about self-compassion. All right, and I just want to take a pause again and offer up, would anyone like to ask any questions, any thoughts? Is there anything that's come up that maybe you'd like to ask about? So I'm just getting the journal. Now, I'm not expecting questions or anything like that, but I just thought, it may be a good time just to take a pause and a breath. I feel like I've spoken a lot just there. It seemed to just blurb. I hope that made a little bit of sense. Anyway, whilst the questions are coming up, what I want you to do, if there are any, what I want you to do is grab your journal, okay? If you've got it next to you, if you haven't got it with you, if you've got a notepad or whatever it is, awesome. That's perfect. But what we're going to do, we're going to start looking at sort of this day 1 to day 5. So, I put in there that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, compassion is the key, because it is, let's be honest. So with pain comes aversion and the hope to be free from it. Although when we reflect on our darkest moments, we begin to realize it's in that darkness that the true heroes of our own story rise. That compassion, forgiveness, strength, and determination just seem to be the perfume, the essence of who we are as we begin to rise up out of that darkness. Compassion holds a lot of the answers, and it's not just about what we do to others. If we all start by focusing on self-compassion, just being compassionate in how we criticize or judge ourselves, this compassion can become incredibly contagious. So defining compassion. And this is going to be the first little task. What I want you to do, you don't need to put the answers. These journals are just for yourself. They're all for your own self-reflection. Yeah. So what I want you to do is just put down, what is your definition of self-compassion? How would you define self-compassion? You know, what right now, which I am going to ask you, you know, what is self-compassion? I just want you to put down, you know, self-compassion to me is this. You know, I've given some thoughts of what I think it is underneath, you know, but ultimately this practice is about you. So what does self-compassion mean to you right now? What does it mean to you? Okay, and just take a few moments. I'll give you a minute or two just to put down, how would you define compassion, please, and thank you. And so next, just moving gently on, is the collaboration part. Now, in this box, I just want you to put down how you might bring this compassion into life. You know, the collaboration with self-compassion, I guess, is this idea of collaborating with ourselves. You know, what small steps could you take to make this 21 days achievable, realizable? You know, what could you do to ensure that you are bringing a bit of compassion into your own life, even if it's just for the next 21 days? You know, just for the next 21 days in this little box, just right now. And if you don't get it perfect, it's okay. You can come back and change this. I'm not going to be checking it. But what could you do? You know, how could you make this real? What could change in your life? How could you bring this compassion practice just for the next 21 days? I just want you to put down some thoughts around that, please, and thank you. That would be amazing. Now, I didn't see any questions come in either, so I'm assuming that there hasn't been any, which I hope is a good thing. Yeah. So all you're doing is just thinking about, as I said, what collaborating with yourself. What things could you agree? What could you do to bring this thing to life? And it doesn't need to be perfect. You know, right now I took you off guard, asking you to even begin to fill this stuff in. But ultimately, intention and motivation is important. You know, so starting with the right intention, you know, this is how I define compassion. This is what I'm going to start doing to start bringing this thing to life, is really why we're here. You know, otherwise, why would you want to learn more about compassion if you really didn't want to start bringing this to fruition, start bringing this to life? into our life, and I want to help do that for you. I would love to. It would mean so much to me. And so the bit underneath compassion, which is the collaboration, is compassion, which is the two practices of which over the next 28 minutes we're going to be having a go at. Okay, so one's a bit of a longer practice, and for any of you out there that haven't done any meditation before, welcome. You're in safe hands. Well, at least I hope so. Yeah, stop when I have a critical thought and reframe. That sounds like a great start, and making sure when you're putting down this sort of stuff that you reflect on it. That's what this is for. This is what the journal's for you just to come back and remember, okay, that's something I want to start working on. And the 2-minute practice is wonderful for this idea of when we have a critical thought, can we reframe it? Am I like one of the most wonderful practices for when I catch myself in a critical thought is this the truth? And another one is wonderful is when I'm talking to myself like that, I try and imagine talking to my child. Would I talk to my child in this way? Would I talk to a friend? Would I talk to a loved one? And if the answer is no, of course not, then that's where the reframe comes in. I shouldn't be talking to myself like this. Okay, so if you want to share any of your stuff as well, happy to. If there's any questions, whether you're wondering, but that's an awesome one. When we're critically thinking, beginning to bring that reframe to life. Now we're going to do a little meditation. It's called the compassionate breath. Okay. Now it's going to take, as I said, about 12, 13 minutes ish. Often it's a little bit longer because we're live. I hope you're sitting somewhere comfortably. I can't really see you. So you could be either still lying in bed, watching this on your phone, or wherever you are, sitting on your couch, maybe in front of your laptop, wherever you are. Now, these practices can be done with your eyes open or your eyes closed. And as always, not as always, but most of the time, we finish with a Tibetan bell. Like I said, just because it sounds cool. It's a nice way to finish, in all honesty. So whenever you're ready, what I want you to do is just take a few moments and bring some attention into the body. And then when you've brought that attention in, so you're beginning to get maybe you're sitting and you can feel yourself sitting, or maybe you're lying down, wherever you are, when you've got a sense of you being here, when you've arrived, just allowing your eyes to gently close. Now, remembering you're in total control. If you want to open your eyes or keep your eyes open, you're very welcome to. But at the moment, it's just about bringing some attention into the body and just beginning to notice you sitting here. And the more physical sensations is a wonderful place to start. So if you're sitting, maybe you can feel the legs underneath you or your sit bones on your cushion. Or if you're lying down, maybe you can feel your back against the bed, your heels digging in, the elbows. All of these more physical sensations that just sort of drag us into this moment and make us aware of us being here or arriving. And I'm just going to go quiet just for 30 seconds. And I just want you to just take the next 30 seconds just as an opportunity to rest and arrive into the meditation. And just become aware of the more physical sensations of the body. And now just gently bringing some of that attention onto your breath. So you're just beginning to watch the movement, watch the flow, notice the movement. Just in the same way we notice the physical sensations, we didn't need to change them in any way. There's no sense of control there. We just notice them. And in the same way, we can notice our breath. We're just watching as it flows into and out of the body. And maybe we just like to gently notice one particular sensation. So maybe it's the movement of the stomach or the nose or the back of the throat. Maybe we just watch the entire breath as it flows in, through, stomach moves, back out. And you're just being able to just rest and watch the whole movement of the breath. Now, there's no right or wrong. There's no requirement other than just to rest and relax and notice. That's all we're trying to do here. Bringing some attention into the movement of our breath, watching it move and flow. Now, with the compassionate breath, what I'd like to do as we're bringing some attention to this movement of our breath, watching the flow, watching it change, I just want you to imagine that all around you is a color that you associate with the word compassion. So maybe it's a deep red or a gold, green, yellow, rainbow, whatever you'd like. But wherever you are, you're just imagining with your eyes closed, just or open, although it's a little hard to do that with your eyes open, but just imagining all around you is this fog or color of compassion. Now, I say fog because that's what I like to imagine. It's just like this sort of hazy, compassionate fog that I can begin to breathe into the body. And that's what we're going to start imagining. That every breath we take, whilst we can still get a sense of the feeling of the breath, I want you to imagine breathing this kindness in. So you're watching this color as it sort of breathes into the body. Now, don't worry if this is the first time you're doing this and you're just not getting it. That's okay. That's what the next 5 days is for practice. It doesn't need to be perfect. All we're doing is just imagining this color coming in through the nose or the mouth and coming down into the lungs and ultimately into the heart. And that's all we're going to do just for the next 30 seconds to a minute while I go quiet. It's just imagining the color coming into the body and into the lungs and heart. Maybe even just beginning to sort of create this sort of beacon, this sort of beam of light, this little glow that begins to start within the body as we're breathing this compassion in. And remember, anytime the mind wanders, we just come back onto the breath again and imagine breathing it in. It wanders again, you come back to the breath and imagine breathing this kindness in. Now, the wandering part is incredibly important as well. This is the mindfulness element. And we're just bringing some focus back into self-compassion and breathing that color into the heart and just letting that color rest and accumulate. Enjoy. And now what I want you to do, I want you to lace this compassionate breath with something that you feel you need right now. And so every time you breathe in, you're just going to say a word or a short phrase, maybe it's tough at the moment and you're just needing a bit of strength. And so as you breathe in, every time you breathe in, you're just going to say this word, strength. Or maybe you're just lacking a bit of compassion, or maybe you're lacking friendship, or whatever it is, you're feeling a little lonely. You're just needing some people, some kindness, connection. And I just want you to imagine breathing this in. So you're breathing this kindness into the heart and lacing it with what you feel you need. So if it's strength, every breath in, you're just saying strength. And just imagine that strength touching your heart. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. And the word can change if you'd like it to. Again, you don't need to stick with one. But you're just breathing this compassion in, reminding yourself strength. Strength. Or whatever it is. You're even very welcome to use the meta terms like, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free from harm, maybe I be safe and secure. Whatever it is you feel right now, you're just breathing that in, and imagine breathing that strength in into the heart. Because we know the heart's job is to distribute the light and the blood through the whole system of the body. In the same way, it'll begin to start distributing this compassion as well. So we breathe this kindness in, it hits the heart and begins to filter out to every part of the body. And what I want you to do, I want you to imagine as you're saying strength, this sort of ball just beginning to grow and grow and grow until we're almost sat in this sort of sphere, this sphere of compassion with this strength or whatever it is getting to every last cell in the body, all starting, radiating out of our heart. And remember, it doesn't need to be perfect. You're just doing your best. And now to finish, all I want you to do is just relax. Let go of any colors, let go of any word. And just for the next 30 seconds, I just want you to do nothing other than just relax into that compassion that you've cultivated for yourself. Just rest into your heart, doing your best not to remain distracted just for the next 30 seconds. Enjoy. And hearing the bell, just allowing our eyes to open. And as we open our eyes, again, just bringing a little bit of that kindness into ourselves, just reminding ourselves of that strength that we have, that compassion that we have, and bringing that to life, bringing that with you into the rest of your day. Now, how did you find that little practice? If you enjoyed it, give us a little thumbs up. If it was okay, or if you found it tough, being honest. That often these types of practices can be hard because a lot of people just don't do it. We never got shown. Just imagine that I could breathe strength into my heart. So there's a wonderful part about working on ourselves, responding to difficult emotions. Awesome. Responding to difficult emotions with a bit of compassionate presence. Now, we may feel all of these emotions running through us, like when we recognize that those things that often frighten us sometimes, that this is just something that wants our attention, that wants to be nurtured and loved, enjoyed. That when these emotions rise, that if we can begin to tend to them, to meet it with not aversion, but nurturing, this is the fruition of self-compassion. And it's never as easy just to say that. The next time we always hope that we'll get better of it. When we feel like the emotions take us over, we don't nurture it. We ultimately contract within ourselves, which just doesn't just contract from us, but it contracts from those people that can help us too. But where the wisdom is hoping to gain each time a little bit more compassion with how we're feeling in that moment. Recognizing these emotions are impermanent experiences. They are a part of us, but they definitely do not define us. And it's with compassion that we meet the unpleasantness of what has happened rather than pushing it away all the time. We can be with it, even if it's just momentarily. And compassion is just recognizing that we have a habit that we want to change and beginning to take the steps to change it. So there's that wonderful teaching of the Buddha. I'm pretty sure it was the Buddha. There's people that attribute it to the Buddha, but it could have been anyone really. And they talk about these sort of 2 arrows of pain. Now, if you've heard it before, you probably have enjoyed it as much as I do, where, the first arrow sticks in your leg, and as Jim Carrey does in Ace Ventura, the first arrow of pain. And yes, he gets 2. But the first arrow, it brings the pain. And the second arrow is the thoughts around the pain and the unworthiness and the shame and everything else. Now, we can't change the first arrow that's hit, but what we can begin to change is definitely the second one. And we begin to nurture us rather than sort of put ourselves down and get frustrated, the sense of unworthiness. The idea that the first arrow, it couldn't be helped. It's the second arrow that we work with, the suffering of the suffering, as I was taught from a Tibetan Buddhist point of view. So we feel like often that we're at war with ourselves sometimes. And as you know, as I know, that war is bloody exhausting, really. So it's not like we don't have the energy to begin to put into the self-compassion. We're just fueling the wrong fire sometimes. We are burning all of this incredibleness on that which doesn't serve us. Seeing it as a strength to fight ourselves when really the strength is in that vulnerability. And I'm going to be doing a mental fitness talk on vulnerability on Tuesday if you want to join in, but I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more at the moment. This vulnerability is one of those words that I'm hearing a lot more these days, which is awesome. It's one of those words we should be hearing more of, being vulnerable, opening up, holding, tending to, reflecting, contemplating, all of the amazing words that come out of being vulnerable with ourselves. So we're going to do another little practice. I realize that time is running away from me. I tend to sort of talk, don't realize just how quickly time goes. But we're going to do another little 2-minute practice. I hope that's okay. All right. So what I want you to do, just where you are, eyes open or closed. I'm going to close my eyes because there's nothing weirder than sort of looking at a screen and seeing some guy sort of staring back at you as you're staring at the screen. So I'll have my eyes closed. And these are these little pauses that I want us to start being better at, and what I'm hoping that we can focus on this week. And as I said, there's a link in the journal which will take you to these 2-minute pauses that you can get practice at and begin to get really good at. And so what I want you to do, where we are, just going to breathe in normally. So we're going to breathe in normally. And as we breathe out, I want you to really extend the out breath, just almost like twice as long as the in breath. I'm going to do that 3 times. So you breathe out, really extend the out breath. And as we breathe in again, we breathe in normally and breathe out, really extend it. And then again, breathing in and breathing in normally, and then breathing out and really extending it. And then one more, but big, deep breath in this time. Really big, deep breath in. And as you breathe out, I just want you to tell yourself, I am enough. And you may feel like it is a lie at the start. It may take a little bit of time for that to begin to embed. But if you begin to tell yourself over and over again the same, that this is truth, whereas the other lies you've led to believe, so it show the mind will believe things. When we begin to recognize, actually, I am enough of who I am, and I'm important. I'm incomparable, inexhaustible. There is so much more to you than you could ever begin to imagine. And this is what these 21 days are going to be about. So I hope you enjoyed that little practice too. Get better at it, do it regularly. Now, maybe it's time for some questions and answers. I mean, do you have any questions? Is there any questions you'd like to ask? And maybe as you're asking some questions coming through, because I know there's a delay, and rather than just sort of me staring, looking at the chat thing coming up, I wanted to give you a little bit of a little chat on what we call the watering the seeds. So if you could imagine, I want you to imagine every day as you wake up, here I am, you're imagining me in your room. No, that's a bit strange. Imagine me in your thoughts. That's less strange than imagining me in your room. Anyway, you're imagining I've given you a whole bunch of seeds. One bag of seeds is of self-compassion, and the other one is of self-criticism. And every day you're going to plant these seeds into plant pots. And all I want you to imagine, as you wake up every morning, over the course of that day, which ones are you watering? Are you watering self-criticism or self-compassion? Because there's some genuine physiological benefits of managing to be more compassionate with yourself than critical. Absolutely critical is important, critical is incredibly important. But which one are we watering is another important question. And I want you to imagine that every day, bringing this to fruition, doing some practices in compassion like what we talked about here. Am I watering the seeds of criticism, or am I watering the seeds of compassion? And when we begin to recognize, that we are part of something that is so much bigger than we could ever imagine, we are truly interconnected, interdependent creatures. That just like me, you want to be free from suffering, that just like me, you want happiness in your life. And just like me, how we think about ourselves matters. So we need to pause. We need to take a few moments of reflection. We need to speak softer and kinder to ourselves when we need it. We need to nurture and hold space for ourselves to feel these emotions, and then let them on their way. letting them sweep your house clean, as Rumi would say. So thank you so much for today. I genuinely hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry, I've got something pop up. Self-expression, acceptance of who we are, forgiveness of our faults and failings. Yeah. So absolutely, because we've been led to believe that forgiveness, that forgiveness means forgiving others, when really the only time that we can really forgive others is when we've forgiven ourselves. When we've really let go in here, that ultimately what's come out of that is forgiveness as well. Over the next 5 days, what are your expectations? We will do the 2 activities daily. My expectations, it's just awesome that you're here as far as my expectations are, Lindsay. So I would love you to do a practice every day. Well, I would love it. Absolutely. I would love you to imagine the seeds. I want you to reflect on that collaboration part. I would love you to do these things, not for me, for you, for no one else other than you. I hope more than ever then I see you in 5 days' time so we can keep exploring this thing together. But in reality, I just want you to do it for you. I want you to really begin to explore this practice together and know that I'm going to be here to help you with it along the way. So use me as a tool, get in contact, ask me questions. So maybe a long-winded answer, but okay, cool. Thank you. All right, we're pretty much there, coming to think of it. So I guess quick recap, and then maybe say thank you very much and see you again in a few days' time. So keeping, obviously, compassion, your definition of what compassion is, and the collaboration you're going to do in the forefront of your mind this week. Thinking about how you can begin to bring it to life, and remembering the idea of the ripple effect and softening that sort of voice that we have in our heads that we like to talk down to ourselves. The idea of watering the compassion seed versus watering the criticism seed. So they're the 3 key points. So what are you watering? Some daily practice. A little bit of daily practice is going to go a long way. And that's the ripple effect. How the ripple effect can make such a massive difference on us and those people that are around us. And ultimately, what is my definition of compassion? How do I bring this to life? Those 3 things would be incredible. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I truly hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you throughout. I'll see you in 5 days. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it's an hour. It's a long time period, but it's hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed it, share it to some people, maybe try and get them involved on the next one so they get to see at least the first one beforehand, and they can still come and get hold of these journals, or ask them to subscribe to the channel or whatever it is, so we can get this in front of more people. But thank you so much. It meant so much to me to have you on board. Much love to you all. Have an amazing rest of your Saturday, and I see you again in 5 days' time.